Introductory of 12 Good Musicians from John Bull to Henry Purcell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. 12 Good Musicians from John Bull to Henry Purcell by Frederick Bridge. Introductory. In the preface of his admirable contribution to the Oxford History of Music, Volume 3, the late Sir Hubert Parry writes, "The 17th century is musically almost a blank, even to those who take more than the average interest in the art, and barely a score of composers' names during the whole time suggest anything more than a mere reputation to modern ears." Of course, the distinguished author is speaking of the musical world in general, not of our own country's music only. I am inclined to think it is a little severe on us. I have always found that great interest is taken in the 17th century and musicians of England. Surely the century which began with the great madrigal school at its highest point, which saw the masque at its best in Milton's Comus, which witnessed the supersession of the viol by the violin, and which at the close had to its credit the complete works of our greatest composer, Henry Purcell, ought not to be in any sense almost a blank, to English students at least. But if our musical students will only read Volume 3 of the Oxford History, so full of the author's admirable criticisms and so amply illustrated by selections from the great composers of the period, they will certainly form a high opinion of what was accomplished then, and, having finished the volume, their minds will assuredly not be a blank. To help to a useful view of what was done in our own country in the 17th century, I took that period for my university course in this session 1919-1920, and for my subject 12 Good Musicians from John Bull to Henry Purcell. The substance of these lectures is given in the following chapters. For many biographical details and other matter, I have availed myself of the valuable articles in Grove's Dictionary and in the Dictionary of National Biography, which I beg to acknowledge. To Mr. Barclay Squire I am deeply indebted for much information. His work in musical history is most valuable, and deserves the best thanks of all students. To my brother Professor J.C. Bridge, M.A., Mus.D. of Chester, and to Mr. Geoffrey Pulver and Dr. Borland, I am also grateful for many interesting facts contained in these pages. J. Frederick Bridge. The Cloisters, Westminster Abbey, October 1920. End of introductory.
Chapter 1 of 12 Good Musicians from John Bull to Henry Purcell. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit Librivox.org. 12 Good Musicians from John Bull to Henry Purcell by Frederick Bridge. Chapter 1. Dr. John Bull, 1563 to 1628. There is, I venture to think, a fitness in the choice of the first musician of the 12 to be considered. John Bull is a name familiar to Englishmen, though I do not know that the musician bearing that name has anything to do with the historical and political personage whose jovial portrait is so well known to us. But Dr. John Bull was the first to hold anything like a university professorship in London, or indeed in England. It is true Gresham College has not developed into a university, but its founder, Sir Thomas Gresham, certainly seems to have had such an end in view, and John Bull was the first Gresham music lecturer. As his successor at Gresham College, and as I have the honour to be the first musical professor in the University of London, I think there is a justification for beginning this course in the university with a consideration of the old Gresham professor. I must premise that in selecting 12 good men, I have by no means exhausted the number of such men available, but I hope to have chosen good representatives of the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?